It's the NBA, man. What did you what have you been keeping your eye on?
Well, for one, we've got the issues going on with the Washington Wizards. We also have the rise of the Kings and the emergence of De'Aaron Fox, who I'm going to take a little bit of creative licensing here and calling him the fantastic Mr. Fox. He's been
Very
playing.
imaginative.
No. I borrowed that from the George Clooney movie. It's one of my favorites. Um, However, going back to De'Aaron Fox, he's emerged as one of the top point guards right now in this early season. I'm liking what he's doing out there. He's carrying the team very well and playing cooperatively with another person who's on the team who is emerging as one of the better centers in the league in Willie Cauley Stein. As the season has begun, I've seen these guys play hard with one another. Their two-man game has been exceptional. It seems like there's design cues similar to Westbrook and Steven Adams. They do the pick and roll very well, and got to give credit to the coach as well. I believe that's Malone. Yeah, Mike
No,
Malone.
that's Dave Jurger.
I'm sorry. My apologies.
And
My
and, and
apologies.
and here's the funny thing about it.
Right.
A couple of shows ago, I talked about how the Kings were a pleasant surprise, and you weren't giving them their due at that point. But now I guess now that you've been able to check them out in long form, now that you're finally ready to give AJ some of his some of my long lost basketball acumen back. I told you they were going to be. I told you they were surprising teams right now. They've continued to surprise. They've continued to impress, and I'm
Hey.
glad to see them do that because God knows if any franchise needs a rebirth, it's the Sacramento
Yeah,
Kings.
you're right. You're right on that. I'll
But
give you
here's the other
credit.
thing
Wait,
about
oh, whoop, whoop.
here's the other thing about the Kings situation. Apparently, I've read reports on CBS Sports and other outlets that the coach, despite getting out to a impressive start, is actually in trouble for not playing Bagley, Marvin Bagley, their top draft pick this past spring, and he's not playing them his choice minutes, and he's in trouble over that, and it might even lead to his dismissal. What do you think about that?
I don't think that's a good idea. I don't think that's a good idea. When it comes to the younger players, every now and again you have to give them choice minutes. Sometimes 20 minutes, sometimes 30 minutes. You got to be able to give them the ability to adapt to different situations, if you will. Sometimes the game calls for it. Sometimes it doesn't. We leave that up to the coach. The coach is the one responsible for giving these guys adequate minutes and making sure that making sure that they make the best of their minutes.
Particularly when I think the ownership should probably let the coaches coach, considering that they've been the armpit of the NBA for the last 10, 15 years, and they finally are witnessing a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel. They should probably let the guy coach.
Yeah, and then at the same time, they should probably let the guy play in relationship to Marvin Bagley III. Marvin Bagley the third. I've seen him do wonderful things on the court. His inside-outside game is translated into a lot of good scores for them. In addition to that, there's also here look, there's a lot of guys on the team that are young, and every one of them is going to get their chance to shine. The thing about having a young team and a coach is that you have to figure out who exactly is going to, let's say, do the most with the amount of minutes and the amount of opportunity present. So he's testing these guys essentially.
And you also want to make sure that these guys mature together so you can actually have a future contender maybe down the road.
True indeed.
Now, from switching gears from a team that's making a pleasant surprise to not so pleasant. We discussed the Wizards a couple of shows ago as well.
Oh dear.
It seems that they haven't they haven't been listening to us. They haven't got the message yet. So it's reported that it's came out that Scott Brooks has been the victim of several verbal abuse thrown toward his way by the superstar of the team, John Wall. and it's led to a rift of sorts that we discussed earlier, and it's now they haven't made any. They've got a couple of wins since the last time we spoke on them,
Yeah,
but
they recently won against the Clippers last night.
they beat the Clippers.
Yeah, I mean, look, hey, NBA teams are NBA teams. Any given night, somebody's supposed to win.
Well, what was
Somebody's
the score?
supposed to lose. They won by. You got to bring it back up for me. They won by 7, if I'm not mistaken.
Now, your diagnosis of the Washington Wizards?
They're still in trouble. They're still in trouble. All right, and we're talking about all parties involved. We're not just talking about, Scott Brooks. We're not also talking about just, John Wall, Bradley Beal, Dwight Howard. There's kind of just a sense of, I guess, it feels like calamity going on there. When teams aren't playing well, we often end up pointing the finger at one person individually or, another person. Sometimes the idea might be just to clean house. It seems as if there's that team is you call it an experiment. I'm sorry, the experiment within the Wizards organization with Beal and Wall, Oubre doesn't seem to be working out that well. It may be time for everybody to part ways and for that franchise to start fresh.
Here's the not so nice thing. John Wall.
It's not even that it's not nice.
I'm talking about John Wall's contract, the max contract that he signed, the extension doesn't actually kick in until next season.
Uh-oh.
Now, how are they going to find a way to move a guy who's making 36, 41, 42, and God knows what the number is at the end, to make a $170 million plus contract? How are they going to move that?
Well, I don't know, to be honest with you. That's going to be something for not only the player to decide, but the franchise as well. We're in a era of monster contracts with diminished return. A lot of these owners and a lot of these organizations should have known that, paying these guys X amount of dollars, may not yield the necessary return on their investment. So, I can't blame the players for making that type of money. They do what they do and they negotiate the money that they're supposed to make. All well and good. But with that money, obviously, comes expectations. If the franchise hasn't put the type of players around them to exceed those expectations, or at least get to that level, sometimes I have to hold the franchise responsible, because I look at it like this: Wall is making that amount of money per year. That's that's fact. Is that correct?
Yeah. It's in between 150 and 170.
All right, that's across the span of 4 years.
4 years.
All right. Now, we already know that on a year-by-year basis, there is a salary cap on these teams in relationship to how much money they can spend on a franchise. On their team. Now, if you sink the overwhelming majority of your funds into simply one player without, I guess, somewhat spreading the wealth, your team is unlikely to thrive. I mean, you're keeping an A1 player at your, on the team, and you're rewarding him for his loyalty, which is fantastic. But you still have to find the right type of pieces to surround him.
Remember, they also gave Otto Porter Jr. 126.
Yikes.
So it's in between the reported infighting between the players, what looks to be the team turning on the players turning on the coach. I mean, it's not a good situation.
Well, I look at it like this. All right. Let's see. When it comes to the amount of money that these guys make, we can't let that be. We can't hold them responsible for the amount of money that they're making. It's more about the amount of talent that a lot of these guys have. It is more so about the ability of the coach to coach these guys, and at the same time, them working together as a cohesive unit. Because very often the money doesn't make much of a difference because these guys were going to get paid regardless. These are some of the most talented guys in the world. All right. My thing is, if and without passing the buck around in terms of the blame game and pointing fingers, you've got to hold everybody responsible. Because it is a team after all. What a person makes individually does not justify the actions of the entire team. Somebody has to be there to hold these guys accountable. That usually starts with the coach. I'm not going to say that Brooks necessarily needs to be canned, but rather they all need a fresh start and need to start anew. The Washington Wizards are a flawed team right now, and changes need to be made up and down the roster and within the organization.
And to put a cap on it, the Washington Wizards have been underperforming for a year and a half now. And, a change is necessary. And I don't know where John Wall's going to end up going. He's probably going to end up being a Washington Wizards lifer. I could definitely see Bradley Beal in Laker gold because they need somebody who could consistently shoot the ball and also close games out. And, and the others,